My name is Angad, and I'm an entrepreneur, or so I'm told. I don't have a Russian girlfriend. If I did, my wife would kill me. I'm a little rotund, but I'm working on it. And hey, Rolex make great watches at all price points. They're worth looking at. But first of all, I was flattered, if not amazed, to be asked to address such an august gathering. And it's a great privilege, particularly to be addressing the future leaders of tomorrow, the students that are here. I thought that I would try and get started by maybe highlighting what an entrepreneur is and why I may be perceived as an entrepreneur. I love the excitement and challenge of cooking with ideas, as was said in the video. Taking ideas, concepts beyond the stage and developing them into a commercial, viable reality. Entrepreneur can mean many things to many people. Literally translated, it probably simply means go-between, if you take it literally translated. I think it's come to mean something more than that, and both Lord Griffiths and Dr. Ackerman have highlighted the various possibilities. So what I thought is taking this topic, entrepreneurs, agents of change, we should try and get to, first of all, what is an entrepreneur and why, and secondly, why change? If we start with what my personal view, and hopefully all your personal views will come through and come out as to what an entrepreneur is, I think an entrepreneur is someone that will strive to build long-term value and wealth. And wealth doesn't necessarily mean money. There's the old adage, probably in a different context, that money talks and wealth whispers. I think the whole notion of long-term wealth is something that is essential, particularly in these times. And the need for change, in my opinion, is a lot to do with not completely negating what's been going on in one context, or totally sort of saying everything that we've done is wrong, but just learning from experience and mistakes as the entrepreneur does, and implementing levels of change so that we can rebalance and create a better, and in today's world, a better international society. I also think that there's a misconception, one of these cliches, that entrepreneurs are all about money. To me, money is a form of energy. If you take the cooking analogy, money is kind of the fuel, the gas or electricity, if you will, that allows you to reconstitute something and create a food product that provides a different form of energy, sustenance and pure energy to live, but also potentially enjoyment. And that's what the makings of a great cook are. I think the makings of a great entrepreneur are people that can take many of these things and put them together and actually see a broader picture. The other thing is the oldest adage, where I believe that entrepreneurs, the better entrepreneurs, surround themselves with people who are smarter than they are, and don't consider themselves the smartest in the organizations they build. And I think that's very, very important, because there's a lot of cliches surrounding this issue as well, and I think that would be an interesting thing to explore. We have money, in my opinion. I mean, this is something very, very important, I think, for the next couple of days. We used to, in going back in time, and it's actually not that long ago, we used to trade. Then we started melting bits of shiny stuff to be the representation of that trade. You couldn't eat it, you couldn't drink it, but it was an easy way of transporting a value. Ultimately, those things got a bit too heavy, so we decided to do sort of IOU type notes and wrote it on paper. And you can eat paper, but it's not actually that tasty, and you certainly can't drink it. Money, I think, is a measure and a byproduct. And I thought it would be interesting to highlight someone that most people in this room probably know as a Nobel Peace Prize winner. But actually, it's a person that, for me, is possibly and should go down in history as one of the greatest entrepreneurs of the 20th and 21st century, and that's Muhammad Yunus, who created Grameen Bank. I think he has really gone back to the roots of what banking is about, which is to actually provide an energetic fuel for ideas rather than making the generation of money the root in itself. And I do believe that financial services are a service. I don't begrudge any of these financial products. I just think that we have to understand with financial products that if you are creating structures by which money is moved around, on the side of every trade that gains, there is a trade that loses. I also think that maybe this is way too simplistic, and I'm ready to be challenged on this, but perhaps in recent years, what we did is we moved from paper to blips and pixels on a screen. So we didn't even have the paper to back up what we perceived to be money or value or wealth. In a way, for me, quantitative easing is just plugging that gap. And today, in an internationalized economy, the problem with quantitative easing is that you can print your money in the US or print your money in the UK, and that money, or the value of that money, can be exported very quickly to buy cheaper goods from an emerging economy. And it changes the dynamics of pump priming an economy and inflation. I believe that for Western economies, one of the best things we can do is take our aging infrastructure and rebuild it, because it keeps things within the system. That's probably not necessarily a very popular view, but I think there's a certain sort of simplicity to it that just makes sense to me as an entrepreneur. I think it would provide, certainly in the UK, entrepreneurs with a lot of opportunity to deliver greater efficiencies. And God knows, when it comes to healthcare, I sit on the board of Imperial College Healthcare, which is the National Health Service Trust. We have a massively aging infrastructure and a massively aging population. We need to do something to create better efficiencies and implement the better technologies that already exist. And then we can deliver some rebalancing to society. There is tremendous entrepreneurial opportunity there. We just need to try and present this to the levels of global thinking government. That sort of leads on to one of the other problems, I think, that's prevalent in the Western world. And Lord Griffiths, in his opening statements, mentioned a thing or two about the whole sort of emerging world and communism, or socialism, sorry, and capitalism. I think there's a tremendous blurring at the edges that's taken place. You see, what I see is that in Western society, particularly, I mean, where I can speak, I think the same is true of the mainland in Europe, but certainly in the US and the UK, a lot of the money that pervades the financial system at every level, well, first of all, we know it's the deposits of people in banks. It's also the pensions of people in banks. It's also the insurance premiums of people in these insurance companies, therefore in financial organizations. Now, the central issue, I think, for entrepreneurism is an appetite for that terrible four-letter word, risk. Risk is essential in order to have a chance of creating long-term value and wealth. Yet, the entire setup of pensions, the entire setup of insurance, this is all bred on fear of a future that frankly may never come. I had the privilege to spend some time living with one of the most ancient tribes in the Amazon rainforest recently. And I saw how the children grow up and how they grow up within their community. They are still complete hunter-gatherers. The interesting thing is that the children grow up without a sense of fear. In the Yawanawa language, there is no concept of fear. There is only now and tomorrow. And even the way that they interact with each other, they talk to each other about their feelings. It's a very, very interesting concept and something that we might be losing in society. The reason why I mention feelings is because I think in the context of today, entrepreneurs rely on feelings. So what we're in danger of, just going back before I confuse myself and you to the whole issue of insurance and pensions, is we have an aging population. In the UK, we've created a terrible situation for entrepreneurs where the company is unlimitedly liable under the final salary pension schemes for aging population, estimates of aging population, because of all these calculations of taking out risk. That is not good for long-term growth and long-term creation of wealth. And we have to address these issues because we do want people to live longer and enjoy better lives. But it shouldn't be an overall drain, and it shouldn't be an overall competitive disadvantage that we're creating. The other thing is that if everything is about taking care of people's long-term future, or in case an accident happens, then in a way, in a roundabout way, we are sort of creating our capitalist structure around a notion of socialism. Even private equity now has moved more towards a financial product rather than the old school venture capital. So in a lot of ways, and we're living in an era where the greatest, this is very interesting, the greatest entrepreneurial opportunity today seems to be in a country that defines itself as communist. So we are really blurring the edges, and we should ask ourselves, if we don't start introducing an appetite for risk back again, instead of de-risk, 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 are we going to actually end up in something that resembles communism? Thank you.